Hello again. This is feedback on the second draft of the essay you sent. Because this video will stop after 15 minutes, I'm just going to kind of jump right in and talk about it. So I would say the main thing to notice here is this paragraph. You talk about problems related to there's not enough wind and sun in Ireland. So that's something you talk about here. Then here you talk about factors to consider, and it looks like you sort of focus mostly on economic factors. Then in this one you talk about visual and auditory impact to the landscape. Now if you kind of consider, this paragraph, this one, and this one, it looks to the reader when they read this sentence, it looks like all of your essay is pretty much saying this is not a good thing. Ireland shouldn't be pursuing solar and wind options, because what you've done is you've just presented all the reasons why it's not a good idea. And although you do address some of those ideas, I don't think it's explicit, and it's not clear reading these first sentence. Are they your part of your argument? Are they part of your counter argument? What's your position? Because it looks like these are your position. The way you've constructed these sentences. So wind turbines have considerable visual and auditory impact. That looks like it's your opinion. Same thing here. One of these is economic impact. That looks like it's your position or your opinion. So I think you have two options in terms of structure. Your position could be that you don't think Ireland is ready for solar and wind, and these are the reasons that you think this. So that's one option. You could change your thesis and say that, you don't think. So the answer to this question, should Ireland pursue? You could say, no, it shouldn't. The other thing I should just say before I move on to your other option, this paragraph here is presented as a list of details. So here you're talking about the 2030 thing, and then there's another sentence, and then there's another sentence. So as it's presented as a list of details. It's each sentence is a separate. And again, what is the function of that paragraph? There's no topic sentence. It's not really clear why are you giving me this information, and how is it answering this question? So, okay, again, just as I mentioned, one option is you could change your thesis. The other option is this. Okay, if I've understood your position on this essay clearly, it looks to me like this is the plan that you might be following. So instead of all of that list of details that I mentioned before, make it clear. I've suggested a topic sentence in my notes, but that the reason you're presenting that is because Ireland already recognizes its responsibility in meeting global climate crisis problems. And so that's why they've introduced all of those things that you listed. The other thing is, I've mentioned a few times that you should be giving more space for your argument than for the counter argument. So, for example, you talk about the fact that Ireland doesn't have enough wind and rain. Well, if that's a counter argument, then you have a rebuttal there. So your rebuttal is that, the rebuttal to not enough sun is we use batteries, and technology is improving all the time. So even though there may only be 4 hours sunshine a day, they will produce enough electricity. You need citations for this, but I think you could argue that with technological advances, this is a sound enough rebuttal. I think you've got a much stronger rebuttal for wind. So, there's not enough wind. Well, you've already said that this could be offshore. Again, you need a citation just to show what is the potential for offshore. But you've said that it's currently not being exploited. So there's a huge potential there. And you also mention elsewhere about the problem of auditory and visual issues. Again, that's a rebuttal that could be placed there. So you could say something like, in addition to addressing the lack of wind, this placing them offshore also addresses concerns of visual and noise impacts. Again, as I was saying, you need to provide more space for your argument. So, although there are economic impacts, I think it's very easy to rephrase that these are short-term impacts, and that in the long term these will pay off. And again, you mentioned this in your conclusion, but because everything in the conclusion should be a summary of the body of the paragraph, then you need to make that link between this long-term investment of in solar and wind will in the long term pay off and will contribute to a sustainable power independence for the country. So I think again that's the argument. I mean, if your argument is that Ireland should pursue, then that's how that bit should be constructed. It should be constructed so that yes, there are economic concerns, but they're short term, and the long term is much more. So it's much more sensible to take a long term view of that issue, challenge, the economic. The other thing I think that is probably worth addressing, and because I've suggested you delete a lot of things so that you keep the focus on answering that question. And if the answer to the question for you is that yes, they should, then I think it's, I think probably, I mean, if I was answering this question, I would say there is much more, okay, maybe not much more, equally important as the economic and other issues. Is this moral argument? You could provide statistics to show that countries around the world are suffering, people around droughts, fires, all sorts of things happening around the world, that people are suffering and livelihoods, lives are being destroyed. And so that Ireland has a global part to play. So it's not just a matter of, do we have enough wind and, can we afford this? I think you could make a very strong argument that morally it's an imperative to play our part in helping people in other countries. So I think that's not an argument you have made, but I think it is. I mean, because I've suggested you delete a lot of things, I think that is definitely an argument that could be made, because I think it's a strong one, it's a valid one. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. Have a look again through the comments that I've made. I'm happy to chat if you want to do a Teams or a Zoom or whatever chat sometime. Yeah, I think you said this is due on Friday, so if I'm not teaching tomorrow, so I'm free if you want to talk at any stage. Okay, I hope this has been helpful, and I'm happy to, if you want to send other stuff in the future, I'm happy to have a look at it or talk to you about it, whatever works for you. Okay, good luck. Let me know if you want to chat tomorrow.